So let me quickly introduce our presenter. I'm delighted to bring you Kip Bautista today. He is a technical enablement specialist, and he has over 30 years experience in design and manufacturing, mostly in the machinery and medical device industries. So Kip understands on a first-hand basis the challenges that you go through when managing data and processes, and not just Autodesk, but any CAD software that you use in your engineering environment, engineering and manufacturing environments. My name is Brenda Ainsberg. I'm a channel program manager, and basically what my job is to find great presenters like Kip, get information from people like you, and try to bring you the most up-to-date, important, and relevant information so that your businesses can not only survive in this challenging marketplace, but really thrive. And with that, let me turn this over to Kip.
Hello, everybody. Thanks, Brenda. Thank you for taking the time today. Today we're going to go over some things about managing data and how we go about it in pretty much the first stage of data management. So one of the first things that we want to talk about is the challenges that we see in the market today, or I apologize, not the market, but in the business segment of, in context of industrial machining, or it could really be almost any type of industry that you're in. And some of the challenges that we see these days, and they're constantly changing, is, the complexity of parts or models that you guys build, complexity of machines that are used to build your parts, and even complexity of processes. You might have a requirements team, a validation team, verification team, all these people working together trying to do the same output, either a product or some type of service. One of the things that are popping up a lot more these days is the environmental and safety challenges that we have, being eco-friendly processes, materials, safety requirements, all of those type of things and regulations that we have to comply to as we go out throughout our day and either designing parts, making parts, creating requirements and things like that. One other thing that pops up is the rate of adoption for new products and configurations. If you look at something like an iPhone or some other device, you can get them with Wi-Fi, without Wi-Fi, 128 gigabytes of RAM, 64 gigabytes, all those type of things that people that are buying these products, they want different things, and we have to be able to offer that to our customers. So with that being said, we look at these and, we ask ourselves, what do these products here that you see on the screen all have in common, right? Whether you're making an iPad, building a tire, brewing some beer, there's machines involved in that. And within those machines, there's a whole bunch of different software pieces that run those machines, timing, bend rates, machining tooling, line feeds, you name it. These machines are pretty complex. And with that complexity comes into the role that at some point in time, you're going to have to build something new. And what do you commonly do right now? Well, we're finding that machine shops or people in the machining and manufacturing process have to tear down everything just to implement a new change. And that becomes very expensive, and you leave yourself for a lot of errors in those situations. So, we talk about how are we going to do that, right? So what are those type of complex processes and things? What's the impact on your business, right? Well, how do we try to achieve those things, right? Your designs have to become more flexible, right? You have to be able to reuse designs so that you don't always have to start from scratch. You have to better manage what your customers want, what the market is asking for. If they're no longer asking for a product you're building, why build it? Right? You need to be able to say, all right, we're going to switch this line and add a new enhancement to it. So now it is kind of the same thing. We reuse a lot of the things that we have, but we've added some more features or functions or some type of service. And how do you turn that around really quick so you can deliver those to your customer, which is really, really important in the time sake. Well, the real way to do that, and the only way to do that, is to be able to tie all the disciplines within the company together in one global platform. So in this image on the side, you have the machine that's actually building the part. But if you really think about it, there's requirements people, there's requirements and specifications to build the part. There's marketing people, how big it is, what color it is, how heavy it's got to be. There's compliance people, what it's made out of. All those type of things working together. Currently, people who are companies that don't have a PDM system, these are all siloed. So if a requirement changes, how do I know that my part is going to comply to that requirement? If a material spec changes, how do I know what I'm making this part out of is going to be compliant with the material? Right now, it's all about design reviews, lots of time, lots of searching, lots of looking around for things, just so that we can stay on track and help ourselves make better decisions quicker. So next, what we want to talk about is how can it help? What do I need to do to get all these silos together on one common platform? Well, we talk about PDM, Product Data Management, right? How can Teamcenter help us do all those things and help everybody play together so that all of the information that people need, relevant information that people need, go along with the task at hand? So if we think about that in a whole scenario, if we have one part, all of us know that a part has multiple documents that support that part. Again, being a requirement, a spec, material spec, compliance, all of those other pieces that go together to make this part. And that's scattered out throughout the whole company. You have people building or, have tool design, have to build widgets to put the part on another part. They have, requirements. They have all these different things that they have to deal with just for that one part. So if we think about it, one part has over, 4, 5, even sometimes 20 times more non-CAD supporting documents just for that one part. Once we have that part, and if we are on that global platform, we can say, where's my drawing for that part? We can quickly find that, right? The common issue that people have right now without a PDM system is, how do we know that's the latest version of that part or the latest revision of the part? We just don't know. So we can find out. It'll take time. You have to go and interrogate it, look at dates, look at who talked to the person who made changes or the last person who had it, and try to figure out, is this really the latest? And then if you're not in the engineering group and maybe you're in the supplier group and they're trying to get this thing built, how do they know that's the latest, right? Things change really fast, and we have to be very dynamic so that we can get that right information at the right time. And then once you get all that information, what do we do with it, right? I have the latest part. I have all those things. How am I going to put it all together so that we can start to manage what we're trying to accomplish in the end? Well, with the PDM, with Teamcenter, once you find it, what you'll notice is Teamcenter has the ability to interlock all the parts. So the important takeaway from this visual is that all the documents that support this one part or this one item that we're looking at goes along with it. So the ability to be able to, if I wanted to open up, let's say I'm in the manufacturing side and I open up the orange ring, that orange ring, I have direct access. It's right in that same container as the part. If I'm in document control, which is the blue ring, if I'm in that discipline and I need to say, okay, here's a document that is relevant to that part, it's there, I can find it. So I'm not having to search for it. I'm not having to go to another server to say engineering documents, here's all the parts, and then look at the part numbers. These things follow along with active dynamic links. So when things change, everybody knows there's a change. Now that we see that all of the parts, I apologize. So what PDM provides is a process management that will help you understand the history of what you're working on. And that history is not only that part itself, but it's the history of the requirements. Why are we making this part? Manufacturing, why are we making this part the way we are making it? Doc control, who signed off on it? Who said this part was okay the way it was, right? What is the release process behind it? Who approved this? Do we have the right packaging for it? Things like that. So the overview of when we look at one part, we have all that available information with that one part, and we can make better decisions. So here we have our first
question.
Oh, go ahead, Brenda.
We have our first polling question. Thanks so much. So do you have an existing PDM system now? Knowing that will help us to determine, what our next set of content is. So do you have an existing PDM system? Do you not have one? Or maybe you are new to your role or perhaps new to the company or the group, and you're just not really sure if your company has an existing PDM system. So go ahead, grab your mouse, select one of those three choices, and I'll give you a few seconds to do that. And it would be interesting to see what percentage of this audience does have an existing PDM system versus, which don't or are not quite sure about it. So let's just give it 2 or 3 more seconds so that we can make sure everyone has had a chance to respond. And let's go ahead and move forward with that. So it looks like about close to 60% of you do, but a full 25% of you don't, and there's a little over 15% who are not sure. So we've got about 40% who either don't have one or aren't sure if they have one or not, Kip.
Interesting. So what are the benefits? So those of you, 40% of us or of the audience right now are sharing some of the benefits of what the PDM will do, right? Being able to find data quicker, being able to automate our release processes and standardize to optimize all of the different tasks that we have to go throughout our day. Hopefully we have the ability to manage the non-CAD supporting document that go along with the product. And also, how quick are our changes implemented and how accurate are they? So if we have a PDM system that is not capable of doing those 3 bottom tasks, then we kind of really need to rethink, how are we going to globalize? How are we going to become more collaborative between the teams so that we can benefit on making the better decisions? One of the common questions I hear all the time when I go in and visit with customers and we have these webinars and things like that is, do I have to use my CAD vendor's PDM software? So for Inventor, they have their own, EPD SolidWorks has their own. Everybody has their own little PDM system to manage CAD data, which is fine. And some of them have different levels of PDM where they manage only CAD, check in and check out, and things like that. Some of them might allow you to have documents. Some of them might allow to have minimal amount of workflow. But when we're talking about PDM, when we're talking about collaborating across all of the groups within the company, we have to have a seamless integration through all that so that we can complete those tasks. So with Teamcenter, our capability of Teamcenter, and I know that a lot of the companies I deal with nowadays have many different CAD systems in place right now. The ability in Team Center to manage it, we don't care what CAD system you use. We can bring all those into the system and manage those the same way, because you want your processes to be the same no matter what CAD system you're using. And we also have the capability of being able to, we also have the capability of being able to translate that in what we call our JT format, which is an ISO standard. And the 3D geometry from that JT format has the ability to be compiled or assembled into what we call a multi-CAD environment. So we can have Inventor data, we can have SolidWorks data, CATIA data, Pro-E data, NX, Solid Edge. All these parts being made by either a vendor, in-house, another supplier, can be put into one assembly, and we can even interrogate that model so that we don't need to open up all these CAD systems, translate them later, and then put them together and do analysis on them. Our JT format does that for you. I kind of went ahead a little bit so that we look at the different design teams and different locations, different CAD systems, and that is all how that JT format pulls everything in together, so we can look at a whole entire assembly made from 4 or 5 different CAD systems and be able to interrogate that, doing tolerance analysis, any type of other volume analysis, things like that, how the parts are meshing together, what parts are missing. We can see missing links between the other parts, and different things like that. So with that, we're going to play a short little ABI, and I'll talk through it, and just to let you see the kind of things that we can do with Team Center in managing almost any CAD system. In this scenario, we're using the Inventor integration, so you can really understand how all this works with Inventor. So you can see here we're in Inventor. There's a Team Center dialog box at the top, a little menu screen, so that the Inventor user stays in his session. And this is no different than, the SolidWorks Pro integration. We have the integration built right into the CAD tool, so he never has to go out into the CAD tool. He can do all his work and have all access into Team Center through the CAD tool, so he's not jumping around in different clients. One of the capabilities of Inventor is that we honor or we support all of the out-of-the-box Inventor plugins, and that's the Autodesk plugins. There are a few third-party Autodesk plugins that we support, but that would be on considered on a user-based type of scenario of how bad we would have to integrate that. But you can see as he works through in Inventor, kind of pops through, does his work, and he's the CAD user. He doesn't need to know anything else about the PDM, because this is really done all behind the scenes. All of these parameters that you see popping up on the screen and all the different pieces to this part, once it gets into Team Center, the viewer converts it into a JT so that you can view it within the Team Center window. Now this is the CAD session as you go through, and you can see here what they're doing is they're actually going to revise the part. He's saving it, and the only difference between the integration and your typical Inventor is where you're saving the file to. So we've actually saved the file into the database. This is actually a multi-CAD environment right now. This part here, or this snowblower assembly, is multiple CAD systems. And what we want to show you here is I don't need a CAD system to interrogate, to measure, to mark up the designs or even the assemblies if we're doing some collaboration. We know that in this scenario there's a missing part. We have to build a part, and now we can actually take down some dimensions, measure everything up, so we can turn around and go build a part with the proper dimensions. And again, you don't need a CAD seat to do this, so a manager or a designer can kind of get in the window, see all the parts together, and be able to say, hey, you need to go build this new link. In this scenario, what we're doing is we're interrogating the model to see, all right, who's made what CAD system is made up of all of this entire assembly. And you can see we have a whole bunch of different CAD models in there. We can do a quick analysis to say, here's the Inventor team, here's the SolidWorks team, here's the CATIA team, and then go back to the appropriate people to say, who's going to build what part. It could be, we may want the NX team to build those parts. The other capability we have with our visualization tool is, again, this is a multi-CAD part, and we can do things like, as I was saying before, we can do things like interrogate the part. So we can do tolerance analysis, we can look fit analysis, we can do all different things with our visualization tool. And the important takeaway from this is our visualization tool and the JT format is an ISO standard. It's accepted by the ISO community, and we have a lot of people using these things right now because, again, you do not need 5 different CAD tools to do this analysis. You can bring all your parts together into one assembly and do analysis as you would having all your parts in the native format.
Great.
So here we have more. Go ahead. Sorry.
We have our next polling question. So what CAD tools are within your environment right now? Select all that apply. Now, as Kip has said earlier, many people work in a multi-CAD environment. And he was even showing how that assembly was actually made of files from multiple CAD tools. So we'd like to know what CAD tools are within your environment. So go ahead and grab your mouse and select all that apply. And I want to give a few seconds so that everyone can make as many selections as apply in this scenario. So for you, and not just you personally, we all know that you probably have one major CAD tool that you're in most of the time, but think about who else is outside of your organization that you work with. Maybe it's the shop floor, maybe it's a supplier, maybe it's, another group in your company, but they're in another location. So select all the CAD tools that are within that broader environment that you may come across or have to work with or interface with files from in your environment. All right, with that, let's wrap up this polling question and move to the next screen, which will broadcast the results. So, okay, no surprise that we have about 56% Autodesk, but we also have another 50% of people saying they also have SolidWorks. So we've got a pretty good selection of various and sundry CAD tools that people are using. Now this is the first of a 3-part polling question. So let me move forward. Thank you for answering what CAD tools are within your environment. And Kip, I'm hoping you'll supply some context to this next question. So do you reference different CAD formats in your primary CAD tool?
Yeah, so I'll put that in a little bit of context. So a lot of users a lot of companies that I deal with, they have the so-called, they call it the high-end CAD, NX, CATIA, Pro E, to design parts. Maybe they're surfacing parts and things like that, really complex parts. And then the machine shop might have, SolidWorks, Solid Edge, Inventor, just to build the widgets and things like that for machining, some tooling pieces for that and other parts to that. And what they normally do is they will, if they're not using Team Center or a JT format, they will actually export them out as STEP, IGES or something, and then bring them into like whatever they're using in manufacturing for tooling and things like that to build a part around, just so that they can get dimensions and things like that. So in contact, it doesn't have to be product centric. It could be just within the process of machining, right? Building tools or dies or things like that.
Excellent. So with that context, hopefully everyone can wrap up their answers. Do you reference different CAD formats in your primary CAD tool? And 3 simple answers: yes, no, and you're not sure. So thanks everybody for answering. I'm going to move forward and display the results of this last poll. So 50% reference different CAD formats. Yep. And so of the others, 25% no and 25% are not sure. So probably a portion of that 25% of I'm not sure, probably a portion of them do. We can't predict what that is. But so that's a pretty high number. At least 50% or maybe a little bit more reference different CAD formats in the primary CAD tool. So moving forward to the third part of this question, what is your primary CAD tool? So first we asked you what CAD tools are within your broader environment. Then we asked if you reference different CAD formats in your primary tool. Now tell us, please, what is the primary CAD tool? Because with those 3 things together, we can actually paint a pretty good picture of what's happening. We can see what's happening with this audience in your particular job environment. So go ahead, grab your mouse, enter your answer. This should be a pretty quick one because it's only a single selection. And we'll give it about 3 or 4 more seconds. And then I would like to move forward and display the results. So let's do that. So this is, specifically about managing Autodesk data and processes, although, as we can see, there are tools that can manage multiple CAD processes and data. So we've got Autodesk is the majority. We also have a strong showing with CATIA SolidWorks. A little less for the Solid Edge and XCAD. Nobody at all with Career and Pro E. That's the first time I've seen that. And we have a smattering of others. So if anybody has any information that they want to tell us what those other ones are, go ahead and pop it into the Q&A box. That's totally fine. So there's our results, and I'd like to turn it back to Kip at this point. Thanks, Kip.
Okay. So now that we know that everybody kind of is in that role or have these different multi-CAD environments and possibly could be doing it, in a complex level versus a really simplistic level, we still need to be able to manage all of that, regardless of the original CAD system. We need to be able to find it, use it, and interrogate it the way we would do it in a manner that is quick. And more importantly, that everybody understands that we can look at these models in a whole, not just all the CATIA parts, all the Solid Edge parts, all the Inventor parts, those kind of things, but we can assemble these things all together and interrogate that as a so-called, multi-level CAD program that we can see everything together and be able to pull it from multiple sources. And be able to, see all these things together so that we can make better decisions, so that we can collaborate with the different teams. Next thing that I want to talk about, I'm going to kind of talk about engineering releases. So if I remember correctly, we had a lot of the people on the call that have a PDM system of some sort. I want to talk about engineering releases. How do I know when it's done? So what we have to offer in Team Center is a way to digitize and optimize the business logic within your company, all the processes that we have within the company that says somebody has to go do the work, somebody has to go review the work, somebody has to go validate the work, and then somebody has to go check it off and approve the work, and then put the stamp on the piece. So processes can be very simple. It could be a create, review, and release it. Or processes can be very complex, where you have multiple reviews. You have multiple people looking at, especially in the medical device industry, you can't just create, review, and release. You have to do a whole bunch of different testing, 510K. You have to do material submissions. You have to do compliance, and all these things have to be approved and checked off So what we do is we take these complex workflows, we put them in the layout that makes you do step 1, step 2, step 3, and you can't go forward and you can't go back until that step is completed. If you fail it and you say, no, I'm going to reject it, then it goes back. If you pass it, then it goes forward. So we basically take all that logic and all those processes and we automate them so that everybody is always on the same page. The decision steps, the rejection path, it's all automated. And we can, some of the workflows that we have are pre-built. Some of them can be designed any way you need them to be within Teamcenter. So here we have another video that we're going to play, and it's how we actually manage go through a workflow process and within Teamcenter, getting the Teamcenter information. It's called Active Workspace. So a new video will start playing, and what we do is Active Workspace is a no footprint application that basically it's a website that's connecting the Teamcenter. And this website gives you access to all the data, all the disciplines. It can be controlled to see it can be controlled, depending on what department you are or what role you are, the information you can see. But this can be seen on any device that is HTML or HTML5 compliant, and basically you can step through the workflows. You can interrogate your parts. Here in this scenario, what we're doing is we're sending a part over or a document over to be released, and we can quickly do this. So if you're traveling, you need to be mobile, you can still have access. You see all the steps in the workflow, what's been completed, what hasn't been completed. You have your little inbox to say, here's some things that haven't been done yet. Here's the process. Somebody's waiting for you to do something, or you're waiting for somebody else to complete something. You can always go in and interrogate that and maybe give the guy a call and say, hey, when are you going to take a look at this part? You're holding me up. All the decision paths, all of these things are being logged into Teamcenter so that when you get done with your release process, you can always run audit reports. You can see who's taking forever to sign up on an ECO. You can see, who's got, overburdened with having to go look at parts, look at things. Why are they overburdened? Usually that part is because they're looking for the supporting documents. That's just not with the part. Whereas in Teamcenter, like I said before, all the information that supports that part, follow that in the workflow, so that you don't have to go looking for it. It's already there. There is no reason why somebody has to sit there and go look for stuff, because it follows along.
Excellent. So next polling question. Do you have an integrated release process today? So we have 3 choices for you. Yes, you do have a release process and it's integrated with your PDM. And you have a release process, but it's separate. It's in a separate system or application. It's not necessarily integrated with your PDM. And the third is, no, I don't have a managed release process. If you're not sure, just go ahead and check no. So let us know. We've already talked about what CAD tools within your environment and a few other related questions. Now, following on with this line of thinking, do you have a managed release process today, and is it integrated with your PDM? Is it in a separate system or application, or do you not have one or potentially not know? So let's just give it 2 or 3 more seconds. I want to be conscious of our time here. We plan on 45-minute webinars and Q&A afterwards, so let's see how we do. So let me display the results. So we've only got about 30% which are integrated with PDM KIP, and we have about the same that have some kind of separate system or application, but we have a whopping 45% that don't have one, or potentially, don't know if we have one.
Okay. Those are your typical results. So the benefits of what we just kind of seen, especially for the engineering release, is, one of the main takeaways is that we're able to map the business logic so it's repeatable. It's the same steps all the time. When things are released, we have to know that they're released by, having something clearly indicated that this piece is released. Is it obsolete? What is it? You have to eliminate some of that confusion out of that. The workflows and the way Teamcenter works is that we deliver all of the information. So we might release a part and put that through a workflow, but having that part in that release also automatically drags along all of the other content that supports that part. So if it's a material issue, that material is already there. If it's a requirements issue, that requirements is already there within all of the reference documents. So it's relevant information that's important to make those right decisions. And again, I'll say it again, it's really important that we take that business logic and the workflow steps and the processes, automate those so that everything is always the same and everybody stays on the same page. Some of the successes that we see in the industry, and I'm going to, kind of go over this pretty quick. There is increased productivity, there's greater efficiency, and there's improved flexibility. Anytime you bring in an automated system that is going to, again, automate the processes, grab that business logic, just keep everybody honest as they go throughout their day, there'll always be some benefits to it. However, the important thing to take away from this slide is that, when we look at the big companies, 50% productivity improvement since they've started using Teamcenter. And when we look back at before that, well, they were losing 50% productivity, but they were still able to survive. They have the financial backing to be able to make mistakes, to not be as efficient. But if you're a smaller company, let's say if you don't save $9 million in a year, that you turn your lights off. People have to go find new jobs. So having a PDM system, a fully integrated PDM system with all the disciplines as a global platform benefits smaller companies, mid-range companies that can't afford to actually, lose a $100,000 deal. Right? I mean, a big company, Siemens is huge. If somebody makes a $100,000 mistake, the most he'll get is yelled at. Whereas a smaller company, doors closed. Guy's got to go find a new job. So it's important to look at the benefits in context of what if I don't? What happens if I don't have something like this? Right? What happens if I make a big mistake that I could have prevented? A large company, well, people might get yelled at, that they'll survive. With a smaller middle tier company, doors closed, lights turn off, parking lots empty, and it's kind of unfortunate. So I always say, it is an investment, but it is an important investment, especially when you're starting out, especially when, you might be a small company, you might be a startup. You have to get these processes in place early on. So, start to wrap things up for the design and release management, right? We can find it, we can understand it, and now we know what to do with it because all of the supporting document follows along, right? We have that capability of bringing all of our CAD models together in one domain in a global platform so that we can interrogate it without having to have extra CAD licenses for those guys who just kind of want to look at the parts, things like that. But more importantly, we can interrogate that model at an engineering level where we can do different types of analysis on the multi-CAD level parts. And we're able to grab all of the business logic, automate those things, standardize them, so that we can clearly know when we are finished with or when a part is released. So everything that you've seen in the front, in the previous slides, comes down to, what is it involved and what are the key solutions that we have with Teamcenter. Everything that you've seen so far are out-of-the-box solutions. That means you deploy Teamcenter, you stand it up, and you will get what you just saw. There's some integration pieces in there. We honor document management. You get the workflow, simple process management, pre-configured roles and functionality, all out of the box with what we call our Teamcenter Rapid Start deployment. And it doesn't take very long to get it up and running. We also offer Teamcenter on the cloud. And this is kind of important, and this might be available for or get some interest from you guys, is that the cloud instances are easily deployed. We already have a bunch of CloudFormation scripts so that if you want to stand up a deployment of Teamcenter and you want to put it on the cloud, it takes hours, not days. Right? We have proven cloud service providers and partners who can deploy this really fast. We have instant scalability, and this is one of the things that most people going on the cloud are really interested in this, because you might have a big project going on where you're adding on a whole bunch of consultants, the models are, the assemblies are larger, so you might need more bandwidth. So during that project, you only pay for what you need. When you're done, you can bring it down, right? And so you only pay for the resources that you need. And then the lower cost of ownership, meaning that why would you want to buy a new server rack just to find out that the day you actually turn the thing on, there's something better, right? With the lower cost with Teamcenter on the cloud and the infrastructure as a service, at certain points of time, you might need more hardware to do maybe some analysis. You might need more hardware because you got more people working on a project. But once you're done, you can scale that back to say, okay, here's our average, but then you might need more. So you can always go, you pay as you go, and you can scale up, and it takes minutes to actually scale up and scale down any server environment. So there's a ton of cost savings in this. And better yet, the stuff's not on premise. It's actually in the cloud. You don't need somebody to manage it. The cloud providers will manage all of the hardware aspects of that, and you'll always have the latest and greatest hardware running at your fingertips.
Okay, and this is our final polling question. So would you like more PDM info, such as case studies or links to videos, when it comes to managing your data and processes? So would you like more information? So we've got 3 choices. Yes, you'd like some more info. Maybe you're really, really busy, just got back from Memorial Day holiday, or just don't have time right now, but perhaps later you'd like to receive something. And our final choice is, nope, you're all set. So let me just give it a few seconds so that everyone has a chance to answer that, whether you'd like more information pretty soon, maybe a little later, or that you're set for the moment. Alrighty, super. So lots of you are looking for a little bit more information, some now, some a little bit later. And with that, right before we get into the Q&A, a couple of things. Remember that there's a widget or a little box on your screen. If it's not on your screen, you can access it through the widget bar on the bottom. There's a resource list. It's got a link in there to get to a website and a couple of different PDFs that have more detailed information if you're interested. You can get that stuff right now. So while we're heading into the Q&A, if you don't have a question at the moment, please do click on the little icon that maybe looks like a pad of paper with lines on it. That's the one for the survey. We would really like to have your feedback. We read these surveys. We take your opinions and your feedback very seriously, and it's really important for us to get that so that we can bring you the best information possible. So please do me a personal favor and go ahead and take that survey. So for Q&A, we've got a couple of questions starting to line up. So first question for you, Kip, is, how does data protection and control happen when you're working with international versus local CAD suppliers or vendors?
Well, we have what we call the ITAR compliancy role, and each one of the users that are coming in and out can either go through ITAR. There are also compliance restriction roles and rules and access rights that have, what people see, where they're coming from based on that. So, it's all kind of around the ITAR basis. We have all those security policies in place. Whether you're going rapid start or whether you're going full-blown Team Center, we have that capability. We do that now, right? We work with all of the major aerospace companies, and that's not a problem. But it's all done by groups and roles.
Okay, that's helpful. So let us know if that did or didn't answer the question. I just want to remind everyone, please go ahead and use the Q&A box to ask your questions. So next question up is, does Team Center offer floating licenses, or is it only assigned to specific users?
It's all named users. Team Center is all named users. If we look at the market today, we look at Oracle, we look at all the different databases, Microsoft SQL Server, it's all coming down to named users. So we're just kind of following along with the database login or the database user, what the industry standard is today, and it's all named users. CAD systems can be still floating, but access into Team Center would be a named user.
Okay. Next question is, can you control, what features and functionality someone has access to on a JT file?
Yes. Now, there's different ways that when you publish it, there is a dialog box that you can say, all they can do is view it, or when you publish it, you can say, this person has a right to measure, this person has a right to, mark up, and all those things. Yes, we have that.
Okay. Let's see. Next question. How would you make drawings from your MultiCAD assembly?
So the drawings from the MultiCAD assembly, and that's a really good question, and then that's going to come down to the process. It's a business process because you do want that one drawing to come out of somewhere. So whether you use JT, who asked that question, I would kind of. So if you're using Inventor, let's say most of our users on this call right now use Inventor. Inventor has the ability to open up a JT and to save a JT, right? So we can assemble everything with the JT format. Pro-E has the option as well. Solid Edge and NX, of course, they have it. So you would have to create a business process that says the master drawing or the master assembly would be in one CAD system. And from there, that drawing would be created because you don't want people, building a part or changing a part and revving the JT before it comes over. So there is a business process behind a multi-CAD scenario environment that has to be in place. And Team Center does a really good job of doing that, but it would be up to you to figure out what is the master CAD system that's going to dictate this entire assembly drawing. And if you need more information on that, feel free to, get me. We can talk again on that. We can take that one offline because that is kind of a longer question.
It goes a little bit beyond the scope of this webinar, correct, Kip?
Yes, but yes, we can, and there are people doing it now.
Excellent. Good to know. Next question. Are these, integrations from different CAD softwares, are they licensed separately?
Yes. Yes,
Okay.
They are. You have Team Center Author, And then you have the CAD integration.
Okay. So how easy is it to import legacy data from, Inventor into Teamcenter from Inventor?
From Inventor, it's again, this is a service, a large question, but I'll answer it really quick. If you are deploying, if you want to migrate a lot of parts, it's a service engagement, write scripts, and then put all the data into Teamcenter. If you do what I normally suggest to customers that want to migrate data in, I say bring up the model into an Inventor session. If that model resolves and all the parts are there and it looks good in the native Inventor session, save it to Teamcenter and you're done. So if you're able to only bring in what you need at the time, one by one, full assemblies, right? That's the way to do it. But if some customers say, I've got thousands of parts, I want them all in the database tomorrow, then we have to build a script and then we migrate it in. And that means all of the back revisions, versions, and all those things. And, migration is 6 zeros versus bring a part as you need it, save it in the Teamcenter. That's no zeros. You're just saving it from the OS to Teamcenter. And I will kind of add something. I saved a 5,000 part assembly Inventor in about 14 minutes into Teamcenter. But again, we can talk about that, what you need to do on another call.
Excellent. And it looks like the questions have stopped for the moment. I did want to make a comment. We have a repeat attendee who did ask us about importing MicroStation legacy data. So I'm going to follow up. There were 2 people on a webinar recently that asked for that, and I sent that information forward. So, Luke, you're here. I will find that information. I will get back to you today, and I will also follow up on that for the other person because I know who else asked about that. So thank you for the question about MicroStation legacy data and, how to get that into Teamcenter. With that, we don't have any more questions at the moment. So, Kit, do you want to just wrap it up for us?
Yep. I apologize for going over. All great questions. I hope I kind of help you guys understand how important it is not only managing CAD, how important it is to get the other groups involved in the PDM system to be able to really work cohesively and to be able to really bring the entire business logic together so that those decisions can be made and the efficiencies can be, had as you move forward. With that, I'm done.
Excellent. Great. Excellent. Thank you, everybody, for joining with us. And we'll get back to you, Luke, on those questions. Have a wonderful day, and we'll see you next time. Cheers. Bye.
Thanks.